basically what I want to be able to say to people is just like give a background about myself, like my journey in terms of athletics journey, almost like reintroducing myself for people who don't follow me on Instagram and aren't subscribed to this channel. For those of you that don't know me, my name is OJ Dubberin. I'm a Team GB 100-meter sprinter. Some of you guys have been locked in on my journey on YouTube over the last, I don't know, 7-8 years. Most of you guys have probably seen me off Instagram. It's probably where you clicked off this link. And yeah, you've seen me from 2013 coming onto the scene, I think in Ukraine, all the way through till now, really. So yeah, sprinter. Been doing that. I guess that's been my main sort of purpose and identity for God knows how many years. And I think, yeah, sort of in a phase now where I'm transitioning into different things in my life. I'm noticing I've got different passions and kind of just investing my time in new interests. And I think that's sort of been part to blame for my absence on socials and not really taking people along on my journey, but equally the reason for me coming back on again with some actual context and not just sporadic posting here and there. Like a lot of people are speculating whether I'm retired. I'm very much still training and getting lactic every day. We still have competitions and championships we're getting ready for this year, which I tend to be a part of. I just work full-time as well. So I know I haven't posted a lot of training content, but I think this starts with this video. I want to kind of give everyone a recap, let you guys into what's been going on over the last sort of like 2 years and why I'm in the car driving now with a face mask on my face. So yeah, I think for most of my life, my big goal and aspirations has been to be the fastest or one of the fastest in the world, right? And that's something that I felt my identity and my purpose was attached to for as long as I could remember. And I think that was responsible for a lot of my success. Like I was overly dedicated to one goal, one mission, which was to be as fast as possible, right? Like no relationship, no other commitment came above that goal. And as much as it made me a great athlete on the track, it probably didn't make me the best sibling or the best friend or the best partner or just the best of anything, really, because I was just really fixated on this one thing, which was to just be the best I could be, right? Now I think, I don't know about most of you guys, I know everyone's kind of over it, but I think COVID was a great and worse time for me, because everything stopped. And I think once we resumed in normal life, I think I realized that I actually had a lot of things under the surface that I needed to work on personally. The side of failure that we don't really speak about, which is maybe the knock on your confidence or the doubts that come in when you don't achieve, I think started to just weigh a bit heavier than usual. And I think all of it culminated probably in 2023, I'd say. Like I came off the back of a good year in 2022, got a gold medal at the Commonwealth Games. I think I ran a windy personal best. I think I ran 10.00, like a 2.1 wind, went to the European champs, and I feel like mentally I was probably in the worst state I'd been in like ages. You know, I get into the next season and I think performances were just not clicking. I got injured again, and I think that's when everything just kind of just pummeled and crashed, and I had to basically figure out what the future was going to look like. I'm in the last year of my contract with Adidas. We've got an Olympics coming up we had an Olympics coming up in Paris, and I had to make a big push to sort of get myself back in the scene, running fast, and like make a bid to make the Olympics, right? I came outdoors, I ran 10.09. I probably had my most consistent season across the board, right? In terms of like average performances. And I was like, I didn't make the Olympics, but I was like, okay, cool, like this is a great foundation for 2025. And I get a phone call, you know, at the end of the year, and I get told, hey, we're not going to renew your contract, and you know, thanks for your service for 10 years, but you know, we're done. And I think a lot of athletes dread that day when your main source of income being the shoe sponsors when you're in athletics, that was gone. And I understood it, like it's a results business at the end of the day, and I don't think anyone sees your journey the way you see your journey, so I can always pull the positives and, you know, room for improvement, and keep that optimism when I think about myself, because I understand the context of myself, right? I'm me every single day of the week, you know. But these corporate brands that have got to juggle budgets and give people new chances and think about the next generation, you know, they're not paid to think like how I think, right? Being a professional athlete is probably the most brutal thing I think you could do, and that was just one of those things. So we're getting into 2025 now, and I just wasn't motivated. Truth be told, there was zero connection between my mind and my body, because I kind of felt at a point where, kind of jaded as you would feel, but I kind of felt like I'd put all this work in, and now I'm gonna have to do it again for potentially no reward. And I've sort of spent the first quarter of the year trying to see if I can find another situation, reach out to other brands, reach out to sponsorships, and you know, it was just no. So I reckon my radar for rejection was probably as strong as it's ever been, right? I just had a random conversation with my friend, and he was like, why didn't you consider like getting a job? And any athlete would hate to hear that word or that phrase or that statement being said, because essentially I've always felt like getting a job means giving up on your dreams. But now we're in an era now where I think money in sport is probably the worst it's been. I think a lot of athletes are struggling to get deals. I think brands understand that they can exploit athletes and not pay them what they're worth. No one talks about what they make, and so you know, I think brands have a way of like monopolizing this space. At this point, I've never had a job before. I've never made a CV, never had a job interview. I've just known professional sport from the age of 17 till 28. No, 28. And I said, you know what? LinkedIn, here we come. So went on there. My missus helped me put together my CV, and I had to think about all the skill sets that I had built in my time of being an athlete. I probably applied for 100 jobs, let's say. 98 of them said no, right? 2 said yes. This is why I say understand that your experiences that might not necessarily be jobs, corporate jobs, still count for something. So I actually was an ambassador for Pure Sport in 2023, the year I got injured, right? And I'd put that on my CV, right? I didn't think anything of it. Get a phone call, they want you to go into the office, and I was like, well, look, if I haven't got the job, do you need to take me into the office to tell me I haven't got the job? That's what I thought, right? And I was like, they could just tell me over email that I haven't got the job. So I went in and got in front of the CEO and the head of marketing, and they essentially told me, yeah, we want you to take the job. And it was an emotional moment for me, because I think that was probably the first real win I think I had for the year. And you know, on the track I was running, I think I'd only run like 10-1 in 2025, and with all this backdrop of just like trying to figure out stability and trying to figure out what my next move was, like competing was the last thing I was thinking about, really and truly. Like every time I came to the track, like I did not want to be there. I sort of knew that this was going to be my last season being a quote-unquote full-time athlete. It was scary, it was nerve-wracking, and it still feels a bit scary because it's like I've just never done this before, right? And I think once the season finished, I sat down and I had to just really reflect on what this next phase of my life is gonna look like. And I said, okay, OJ, you're no longer a full-time professional athlete. I'd probably call myself a multi-disciplinarian or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like an athlete, a marketing exec, a creative director, a model, a content creator. And I'd probably say a brand consultant as well. We'll probably get into that in later videos, but juggling a lot of plates. And I've actually always been good at these things, but because of that love and that passion just to pursue this one goal that I felt would fulfill me and define me, I never allowed myself the opportunity to actually thrive in anything else until now. The one thing I've said for myself, and I would say to you guys, is structure or systems, should I say, stop ships from sinking. I think ships sink when there's no systems. In other words, if you aren't organized and you don't have structure and you don't know what you're doing, you'll fail. I'm a true believer in that. I think where we're at now is just like, I think I'm just gonna document like how I navigate this journey, the ups, the downs, the in between, and just try and show athletes that there is another route you can take. When you don't have a contract or you're not making money from the sport, you don't have to quit. What I do think is you don't need to wait until you retire to start pursuing other things, because guess what? People don't really care about you when you retire, unless you're a legend. People care about you in the moment when you have something to offer and your buzz dies down. Don't expect people to come knocking. 2026 in a nutshell is going to be about transparency. It's going to be about bringing you guys on my journey. For me personally, I think it's going to be about just being myself and like just being instinctive, doing what I think makes sense. Yeah, I think I'm rambling now, but I'm rambling. So lock in every week. I'm going to try and do this every week. And if I don't, hold me accountable.